came to Russia. It seems to be a trend. I can put everybody's concerns at ease. I am an American citizen. I will always be an American citizen, and I am returning to the United States, whether you want me to or not. You can't get rid of me. So I'm there, but there's a lot of a lot of people are. They come to Russia and they fall in love with Russia, and I can understand why they do so. It's a beautiful country with wonderful people, and if you're somebody that has, specific, values, family values, etc. Russia is a place that might be attractive if you're into clean subway systems. If you're into no homeless on the streets, Russia might be a place you might want to go to. It's not perfect, no place is, but it's a very attractive country with a very friendly and hospitable people. So I'm not surprised that many Americans and many foreigners come to Russia and seek to get Russian citizenship.
Well, all right. We'll take your word for it that you are going to return to the United States of America. But before you do, we're going to do at least one more episode of Ask the Inspector on January 19th. Never mind Steven Seagal. Stop dropping names. The guy who's really the MVP, the one who really makes it happen, is Alexander Zhirianov. Is he not? He's the guy that made your trip possible.
He is the man with the plan. He made the trip possible. He, I joke about it. I say he has the most powerful phone in Russia because he can pick up his phone, dial numbers, and things happen. But he's, just a very honest, hardworking man who truly is interested in improving Russian-American relations. There's no hidden agenda with him. What you see is what you get. He's very clear about the fact that he's using me to promote Russian-American friendship. I'm like, good. I'm using you to do the same thing. But he's a very friendly guy who's become a very good friend. I hope someday, Jeff, you get a chance to meet him in person, and you'll find out everything that I'm saying is dead on accurate. Just a good man who has been. This trip has accomplished a lot, and I'm hopeful that it'll accomplish even more in terms of relations at the highest level. I mean, I met Ramzan Kadyrov at the Chechen Republic, and that wouldn't have happened without Alex. I met a number of other people, and I'm going to meet other people. I think it's best to keep my powder dry until I get home. We can talk.
Yeah, you're keeping your powder so dry. You gave Kadyrov a weapon. What's going on here?
Well,
your daughter looks. Is that a look of disapproval on your daughter's face? Let me rewind that a little bit. How do we interpret that look? I think she's.
Well, I'm probably speaking Russian, so it's probably a look of utter confusion because no one understands what I say when I speak Russian. But I did bring Ramzan Kadyrov a K-bar knife. It's the real deal. It's the same. It's an official Marine Corps K-bar knife, and I had it inscribed on the back. Ramzan Kadyrov, the head of the Chechen Republic, Ahmad Sila, which is the power to Ahmad, his father. And I think, as you see, he has a collection of extraordinarily fancy weapons on the wall. I don't believe this knife will find its place on the wall. This is not a a fancy piece of parade. This is a real weapon. This is what Marines use.
Right, but it's not only that. It's a weapon from our favorite weapons inspector, I'm sure.
Who's also a Marine. So I think he liked it. He received it. The thing is, he's not allowed to receive gifts, so they bought it from me.
Are they going to get him for the emoluments clause of the Constitution?
They
how
would.
They were trying to,
if there was, and then he kept it. So they paid it. The price is I'm not going to give it away, but it's 10 rubles, and so it's basically that's a penny, but at least it's symbolic, and they didn't do it to dishonor me. They did it because it's it's the fact that the president's not allowed to receive gifts, and to receive gifts from an American and a former American intelligence officer, would be problematic. So rather
You
than
mean the
receive
25
gifts,
coins you gave to him?
the what?
You told me you gave him 25 of these coins.
I gave his the gentleman who sat next to him, the Minister of Information. I gave him 25 coins, one for every 1,000 Chechen soldiers who had to put up with my horrific Russian speech.
All right. Well, we're going to give away one of these coins today. If you're watching on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, or YouTube, type #coin in the live chat to enter the drawing, which we'll do at the end of the show. That's #coin. We're also streaming live on Rumble and Locals, but unfortunately we can't do the giveaway there. We just can't make it connect. So sorry about that. And let's see. I've been berated by our beloved audience for not having a plan B when the internet goes bad. So to all of you, calm down. We have a plan today. If the internet fails, Scott is going to call on the phone. So let's get to the questions from our beloved audience. It's up to Scott if he's going to be loquacious or breviloquent or somewhere in between. He wants to do an hour. We'll do an hour. Uncle Sweet
You ain't
Potato.
whipping me tonight, Jeff. I get
No.
to talk.
All right. I won't use the whip, but doesn't mean that you have to be completely loquacious. It's up to you. We're going to try to get to the as many questions as possible. Uncle Sweet Potato from Hong Kong. I read with interest your book, Disarmament in the Time of Perestroika. Would you say a few words on the current state of affairs of the INF Treaty?
Tragically, the INF Treaty, the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty, is no longer a treaty. The United States, under President Trump, precipitously withdrew from the treaty, claiming that Russia was in violation. Russia is not in violation. We accused Russia of producing a missile that exceeded the range limits, the lower range limit of the treaty. Russia was prepared to assist the United States in correcting this error. They put the missile in question on display. Had the United States showed any intellectual curiosity or sincerity in preserving this treaty, they would have taken the Russians up on it. And I'm fairly confident that the Russians would have gone out of their way to ensure that the Americans were convinced that this missile was not a missile that violated. But that wasn't the United States was going to leave this treaty no matter what. Donald Trump had been advised by his people that China had intermediate range missiles. China wasn't a party to this treaty. Therefore, we believed in order to match China's strength in the Pacific, we needed to have intermediate nuclear, ranged missiles or intermediate range nuclear missiles. And so we withdrew from the treaty. That's simple as that. Then what Russia withdrew from the treaty. That's why I got to write the book, by the way, because had the treaty been enforced, one of the treaty provisions is that people who were inspectors or who participated in the treaty couldn't write about their experiences on the soil of the other country without that permission, and that was never going to be granted. So the only reason why I was allowed to write the book is because the treaty was no longer in force, and therefore that provision no longer applied, and I was able to write the book. It's a sad state of affairs because the treaty was the first treaty that implemented meaningful compliance verification mechanisms using on-site inspection. And, I was one of the first inspectors. In fact, I was the first inspector on the ground in the Soviet Union, which means I've always said there's a couple ways you can become an expert. One is to actually know what the hell you're talking about. And the other one is just be the first person to ever do something. And then you are, but by default, the expert because you're the only person to have done it. So I was the first person to be an inspector in the Soviet Union, and I helped write the book on on-site inspections, and that's what got me invited to the United Nations to do weapons inspections in Iraq. This experience, but the treaty is dead, and with it, I believe arms control at this point in time is dead, and we're in a very dangerous state of affairs where both the United States and Russia are building new nuclear delivery systems, but there's no treaty mechanism in place to account for them. So confidence will be reduced. That increases the chance for an error of judgment, a mistake, a miscalculation. And when you're talking about nuclear weapons and there's a mistake or miscalculation, you're talking about the potential end of the world. So it's a fairly depressing reality that we live in.
Hassan in Istanbul, I'd be happy to hear your thoughts about the Turkish army and its alleged ambiguous relations as a NATO member with Russia. Would you like to make Hassan happy by talking about it?
I'd love to make Hassan happy. The Turkish army, first of all, I think people need to understand that while Turkey is a NATO member, the way, and Hassan, chime in anytime you think I got something wrong here. I just want to remind people that it's late here in Russia, and I've been up very long, and so my brain is a little fuzzy, but I think I can handle this one. Turkey's organized into military districts or various armies, and the army that's in the Thracian area in Istanbul and European Turkey, the army that's in the Izmir area, I believe these are armies that are dedicated NATO forces. But the armies that operate to the east, especially the army that operates along the Syrian border, these are not dedicated NATO forces. So, Turkey is one of these nations where they have a significant, part of their armed forces which carry out non-NATO duties. And Turkey also is a nation that recognizes the reality of Russia, meaning that unlike other European nations, Turkey knows that it's in their best interest to have good relations with Russia. This is why Turkey has active economic engagement. Russia just completed a nuclear power plant. But the other thing is that, Turkey, to give you an example, as a NATO member, they have a very difficult relationship with Greece, and the United States has been hesitant to sell Turkey advanced fighter aircraft out of fear that Turkey would use these aircraft to attack Greece. And so there's been strained relations. This dates back to 1974, I believe, when Turkey invaded Cyprus, and the United States began sanctioning Turkey before that invasion. So we have sort of this love-hate relationship with Turkey, where they're a member of NATO, they buy American equipment, but we deny them full access to American equipment. We blocked Turkey from the F-35 program, even though they had invested a lot of money into that, and they were prepared to produce part of the F-35 aircraft in Turkish aircraft factories. We've not been forthright in replacing the F-35 with an advanced F-16. We put a lot of strings on that. Turkey's bought the S-400 surface-to-air missile from Russia, which is one of Russia's most advanced air defense systems. And there's a lot of concern that, if Turkey has the F-35 and the S-400, that the S-400 radar will be able to learn a lot of things about F-35 operations, and that will expose the United States to vulnerability. So there's a lot of people hesitant about allowing Turkey to have both the F-35 and the S-400. So we're trying to we put pressure on Turkey. We sanction Turkey, and as a result, Turkey has open relations. I went to the Defender of the Fatherland event at the Russian Embassy in Washington, D.C. last February. That's one where I famously or infamously posted me doing a vodka toast with two Russian colonels. But at that event was the Turkish air attaché. And I sat there and had a very long discussion with him about the S-400, about the F-35, about Turkish relations with Russia. The Turkish officer and the Russian officer were on friendly terms. They, one's a NATO officer, the other one's a Russian, but they were doing what defense attachés are supposed to be doing. That is working together, trying to get a better understanding. There it is. I love this video. There are many people out there who hate this video, but I don't care. This is called building bridges, making friends. But I think I've touched on the subject long enough to.
I think Hassan should be happy by now, maybe even elated.
He should be. I did my
He
best,
should.
Hassan. I'm a little tired and I'm starting to babble, so I'm going to cut it off.
No, you're doing great. Should we take a phone call from Blind Jim?
Sure.
All right.
So I'm going to cut it off.
Blind Jim, turn down your computer.
Hello?
All right. Are you ready to
Hello?
are you ready to be breviloquent, Blind Jim?
Yes, I am.
All right. Go ahead.
Anyhow, Scott, could you tell us what the Russians, how they perceive Hamas and the current Israeli government?
Sure. I just had a conversation with a Russian official today, and Russia, of course, condemns Hamas' attack on October 7th, their attack on Israel. Russia views Hamas as a terrorist organization. Their actions on that date is terrorism, but Russia doesn't believe that gives Israel carte blanche to do anything they want in retaliation. And the Russian feeling now is that Israel is actually the bigger terrorist threat, that Israel's actions far exceed what Hamas did on October 7th. And so Russia not only condemns Israel, but it labels Israel as a terroristic state, and is pushing for a two-state solution, the fulfillment of the Palestinian people's desire to have their own homeland. So that, I think, captures the Russian position in a nutshell.
That was breviloquent, both on your part and Blind Jim's.
Breviloquent.
Paul Spencer, who's near Portland, Oregon. Near Portland. Chechnya is building 100+ homes for Gazan refugees. There are over 1,000 of these folks there now. Could or should the Russian Federation invite Gazans to build a new country of sorts in some southern part of the RF, near Kazakhstan, for instance?
I mean, before Russia does that, I think people should ask the Palestinians if that's what they want. This is sort of modeled on, the early Zionist activities of the Jews who were looking at homelands. I think they were looking in Africa and Uganda for a homeland, and the idea was just anywhere you could get a homeland, you could get a homeland. But they chose the Holy Land because there's biblical links there. The Palestinians, why would they want to live anywhere but Palestine? I mean, that's their homeland. It's theirs. I don't think the Palestinians would agree to a false state, a fake state, a new state that doesn't have any historical relevance.
All right, our first internet outage. And we'll see if we can get Scott back. As I said before, we do have a plan.
But I'm back.
Okay.
I don't think that I don't think the Palestinians would go for it. I commend Chechnya for its for what it's doing for Palestinian refugees, but I think the status will be refugee status, which means at some point in time these people will hopefully be returned to their homeland and able to build homes in Palestine.
All right, keep that phone number handy just in case, Scott. Jasmine from the great state of Michigan. I think that's where Blind Jim is also, right? You have previously said that the U.S. will always remain faithful to Israel because of the Israeli lobby. But ever since the genocide in Gaza started, you can see the opinions change, especially among the young generation. So do you think the days of the Israeli lobby and Zionism are numbered?
I'd like to hope so. I'd like to believe so. And I would like, I want it to be that way. But the reality is, Israeli money runs deep. The corruption of the American political system at the hands of the Zionists, of the Israelis, is real. They brag about it, openly brag about it. They're going to spend $100 million to influence the 2024 election. Imagine if Russia just came out and said, "Hey, we're going to spend 120, we're going to spend $100 million to influence the American election." Think anybody would stand for that? Of course not. But Israel's bragging about it. They openly lobby Congress. They threaten congressional members with being primaried. Imagine again if Russia came in and said, "Hey, if you don't support this, that, and the other thing, we're going to put money in the system and run somebody against you." Nobody would think that candidate would be legitimate. We'd say that's a Russian candidate. Well, guess what? Most of the candidates that run for Congress are Israeli candidates because they're bought and paid for by the state of Israel. And as long as that's the case, until you purge Congress of this Israeli taint, so to speak, I think that the lobby is always going to have that power and the influence. I'd like to believe that we could find a way to limit it, but I'm not optimistic.
What do you make of South Africa going before the UN court accusing Israel of genocide?
I think it's wonderful. I'm glad South Africa had the moral courage and integrity to do so. There's no doubt in anybody's mind that Israel is a genocidal state. What they're doing against the Palestinians readily qualifies as genocide, and it's wonderful that South Africa has taken this case to the court. The court is hearing the case. 84 pages of unequivocal truth, fact-based truth. In many cases, using the Israeli government's own words against them. You don't have to manufacture a case here. You don't have to use circumstantial evidence. The Israelis have right out, just Israeli officials have said it. There's the soldiers say it. The commanders say it. It's genocide, and I'd like to believe that the court will find Israel culpable in committing genocide against the Palestinians in Gaza.
All right, let's go on to our next question. This is from a witness in Canada. Did Bernie Sanders just grow a spine by putting forth a resolution to find out if U.S. weapons were misused or not? Or is it a frantic move to distance the U.S. from the coming genocide conviction of Israel for their massacre in Gaza? Bernie Sanders growing a spine? Do you know about this?
No, I mean, I'm hearing about it, but I'll take a witness at face value here that Sanders did this. I don't think he did it because he's trying to do the right thing. He has long been an ardent supporter of Israel. I think he's doing it for political cover. At some point in time, Joe Biden and the Democratic Party is going to have to distance itself from the atrocities being committed by Israel. And what Bernie Sanders has done, even though he's technically an independent, he caucuses with the Democrats. And I think that what he's done here is create the beginnings of a political cover of as you call it, Jeff, a plan B for the United States when it's time to cut and run from Ukraine because it's a sinking ship and we don't want to go down with that sinking ship.
All right, let's take another phone call.
Because it's a sinking ship.
Turn down your computer. What's your question?
Okay, well,
Turn it down.
Привет.
You can do
Hello.
it. You can do it. All right, what's your question?
Привет. Привет. Добрый день. Как дела? Scott Ritter for president.
Scott Ritter for president. Okay, is that it? Is that
I want to toss that. I think it's a realistic goal to get Scott Ritter elected president in 2028. I just want to toss that out.
Okay.
But Mr. Ritter, you have inspired me to study and learn Russian, and to begin to read Pushkin and the other great Russian authors. I'm 64 years old, but I'm going to be doing that for the rest of my life. I'd just like to ask you, have you read all of Pushkin? What do you think are his important poems? I gather that Eugene Onegin, is that like the central work where you get the ideas about the Russian soul? And just any other comments you'd have about Pushkin?
All right.
Yeah,
Thanks
that's
for
my
your call.
question.
Thanks for your call. You can listen to President Ritter address that question on your computer. Thank you. Go ahead, President.
Well, first I want to commend you for learning the Russian language and familiarizing yourself with the great Russian authors, and of course, Alexander Pushkin is one of the greatest. Eugene Onegin, of course, as you said. I mean, you know the answer. It is a poem that many people say best describes the Russian soul. I'm lately been reading up on the Bronze Horseman, another epic poem written by Pushkin about the statue to Peter the Great in St. Petersburg. Because if you look at the prologue, it talks about it sort of mocks the Finns and the Swedes. And Peter the Great is building this city, St. Petersburg, in order to protect Russia from these two threats. And when you look at today with Finland having joined NATO, Sweden on the cusp of entering NATO, it just seems to be relevant, and to get Pushkin's insight into the thinking behind the building of the city is, again, I just think there's a lot of important parallels today. But no, you're doing very good. I applaud
Do you think
you.
this guy could possibly be the U.S. ambassador to Russia in the Ritter administration?
Well, he could be the U.S. ambassador to Russia in somebody else's administration. I can tell you that the not only the likelihood of me running, but the chances of me being elected are slim to none. So I appreciate the vote of confidence, but I'll keep doing what I'm doing. I think I do a better job as a citizen ambassador than I would do as a failed presidential candidate.
All right. Well, a 64-year-old guy can dream, can he? For crying out loud. Give him something to live for. Kiki, who claims to be your biggest fan, I don't know about that. How do we measure that? She's, you know what? I think I forgot to change near Portland, Oregon. So disregard that. But anyway, you have said before that Israel is not our ally. Then why does the U.S. staunchly continue to support them, even during times of genocide? There's that G word again. I've been told they give us a foothold in the Middle East. Is this true? If not, then what do they do for us?
They bought us. They own us. You can listen to Alan Dershowitz. He gave a speech the other day where he, talks about the Jewish influence in America, and he doesn't, hide from it. He basically says that, the Jewish people who constitute, a small percentage of the American population dominate, and that they don't need to apologize about it. He brags about how the American Jews are harder working, smarter. They've applied themselves better, and they deserve the right to have this influence. And they not only deserve the right, but they have to have this right in order to, basically get America on board to, the Israeli bandwagon, so to speak. So, but when I say that Israel's not our ally, Israel uses the United States. We're a tool for Israel. So, we're being fooled or lulled into a false sense of complacency into believing that we have somehow a foothold in the Middle East in Israel. Israel doesn't want to give us a foothold in the Middle East. Israel just wants our money. Israel wants the political backing, the veto in the Security Council, etc. But Israel, doesn't want to open up its defense, its national defense, to the vulnerabilities that come with a genuine alliance with America. Plus, Israel spied on us. Who do you think Jonathan Pollard is? Do the research. Man who spied on the United States in the 1980s, took what we called the crown jewels of the intelligence business. The book that lists all of the frequencies that we monitor using our signal intelligence capabilities. And if you know that we're listening to you, if you know that we've broken a code, then you'll change the systems, and the money that we spent in, getting into the position where we could listen to that particular communication is wasted money. Jonathan Pollard sold this to the Israelis, and then the Israelis in turn bartered it to the Soviet Union to get more Jews out of Israel. So Israel uses America. They killed American sailors. They attacked the USS Liberty, a flagrant attack, killed American sailors, wounded American sailors, never really apologized for it. Israel continues to spy on us. We saw the AIPAC, the American Israeli Public Affairs Committee, back in the late 1990s, was a front for spies. They were liaisoning with the Pentagon officials, and some of the Pentagon officials were giving AIPAC classified information about Iran's nuclear missile program, and then the AIPAC people gave that information to Israel. It's spying, literally spying. So no, Israel's not our ally. I think that there's a lot of propaganda that goes into defining Israel's relation with the United States. Both Israel and the American Jews like to make it out as Israel's our greatest ally, that it's literally the 51st state. But the reality is Israel is one of the worst enemies America's ever had, because they've done more harm to America than many of our acknowledged enemies.
All right, let's take a voicemail message, or play a voicemail message from an anonymous caller.
Hi, Scott. Thank you for answering our questions while traveling through Russia. Now, to my question, I can understand the importance of Mykolaiv to secure Odessa once taken by the Russian army, so that Ukraine does not pose danger to the Russian Navy around Crimea. But can you explain the strategic importance of the further northeast oblasts, Dnipropetrovsk and Kharkiv? Also, does the Ben-Gurion project play a role in the recent Israeli incursion into Gaza? Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the question. I'll start with the Ben-Gurion project. Basically, the Ben-Gurion project is the idea that Israel is going to not be held hostage to the Suez Canal, and so they would build their own canal connecting the port of Eilat with the Mediterranean Sea. The plan envisioned extensive use of atomic demolition munitions to basically carve this canal out of the desert. It's a plan that has no chance of succeeding, because no one's going to allow that many nuclear weapons to be detonated underground, or to create these things. So I don't think the Ben-Gurion project had anything to do with it, because it's not an active, viable project, at least to the best of my knowledge. So that, the thing is, when you speak of Odessa, and I continue to believe that Odessa will be taken by the Russians as part of their demands when this conflict ends with Ukraine. Vladimir Putin recently has come out and said that Odessa is a Russian city, and he's a man who's very careful with his words. So I'll take him at face value that Russia plans on taking it. And as the gentleman caller mentioned, to take Odessa, you have to go through Mykolaiv, and so they're going to have to take Mykolaiv as well. But now, when you look at those two goals and objectives,
new co-host Yelena. So thanks for all your hard work. We appreciate it. Stay in touch.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
All right.
But I'm fired.
All right. Well, Scott, you missed the coin giveaway. We put the time to good use so that people would have
Who
something
won?
interesting. Well, it was kind of an odd name that I can't really remember. You know how people always have these weird handles on YouTube and so forth? Or maybe it wasn't even a weird one. Maybe it was just a foreign name, but I don't know. Bacham something or other? Whatever.
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. All right. So let's see. You want to do a couple more questions? Where are we here now? We're still within the hour window. Okay. Let's see where we left off. Claudia Pineda in Ottawa, Canada. According to an article in the Times of Israel, Israel knows the exact location of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar. However, according to the article, Sinwar has surrounded himself with a large number of Israeli hostages, which is preventing the IDF from carrying out a strike on him. Do you believe these statements?
No, I don't believe these statements. I think if they knew where he was, they'd kill him. And, the Israelis showed a callous indifference to the fate of Israeli citizens, both those who were taken prisoner by Hamas on October 7th and those who were simply caught in the crossfire. It's becoming apparent that Israel killed the vast majority of the Israelis who died on October 7th. That the Hannibal Directive, which is the name of a directive, a controversial directive that has Israel killing soldiers or hostages before they could be taken back into Gaza to prevent Hamas from using them as leverage to get Palestinian prisoners released, that the Hannibal Directive was in full force. So, no, I don't believe this. So I think if they knew where he was, they'd kill him.
All right, Scott, we'll take you any way we can get you with technical problems. But if you are able to steady your phone, we're hearing the rustling around a little bit. Are you able to steady it or not? Should we just continue?
Well, I'm holding it by hand because
Okay.
I think the problems was that my little stick gig cut off my internet connection by putting pressure on my phone in some way that it shouldn't have. So rather than repeat it,
then we'll just live with it. We'll just live with it then.
Okay.
Just asking. All right. Ramsey from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Is the West experiencing a weapons shortage that could affect Israel's military capability? The U.S. bypassed Congress again to approve another arms sale to Israel consisting mainly of 155 millimeter shells. However, it seems those shells will be given to Israel unassembled. Is this how shells are normally exchanged?
I'm not somebody who has been involved in the transfer of weapons from the United States to other nations. I will say this, that when I inspected in Iraq, the weapons depots of the Iraqis, they had a tremendous amount of American-made ammunition, much of it which was sourced from Jordan, because Iraq had some American-made, artillery systems, and the Jordanians were providing them with ammunition, and the ammunition, 155 millimeter ammunition, was stored ready to fire. So I would assume that that's the way that the ammunition is normally delivered, and that the fact that we're shipping them unassembled 155 millimeter shells is just indicative of the urgency of Israel's need, and our again, I don't know the niceties of law. Maybe by shipping them unassembled, they don't qualify as a weapon, but weapons components, and that might play some role in justifying the bypassing of. I don't know, but I don't think that's the way shells are normally shipped.
I can relate to this, Scott, because I need to get a table, a desk for my apartment. And, Amazon has the best deals, but in almost every case, it comes unassembled. I have to assemble it. That is a burden, so I can relate. Brenda in the UK, how protected are the Palestinian burial grounds from the Israel bombings?
They're not protected at all. Israel's taking bulldozers in and desecrating the burial grounds. There's no protection at all. This is part of the genocide. Genocide isn't just the killing of human beings. Genocide is the eradication of culture, of history, of the people as a whole, and that's what Israel's doing. So no, there's no protection at all. Israel is a despicable nation at this point in time because they're doing things that no civilized nation would tolerate. There's a book written called Alpha, and it's about a Navy SEAL, last name Eddie Gallagher, I think his name, Eddie Gallagher. He was a sniper in Iraq, assisting in the fight against ISIS, and the man was just a brutal thug. He would go up and shoot Iraqi school children, and then call them ISIS kills, but he was turned in by his fellow SEALs. The trial was a travesty. But what I'm saying is that when a Navy SEAL murdered Iraqi children, the system didn't embrace it, applaud it, give him a medal. The Israelis, they're on video right now. They killed a Palestinian mother who was holding the hand of her son. Both were waving white flags as they were trying to move out of a danger zone, and the Israeli sniper shot and killed her. He knew, looking through the scope, that she was a non-combatant. She was waving a white flag. She was holding the hand of a child, and he shot and murdered her. Nothing sacred. The Israelis have become the worst people on the planet.
Here is a question left by voicemail about the Jewish homeland.
Hi, Scott. This is Sean, Kanda Strike Kanda. I have a question about your notions of the Jewish homeland. You're of the opinion that Israel has the right to exist. That's absolutely fair. You're also of the view that the Jews deserve a homeland, and that history has shown that that should be the case. Now, is this not contradictory to your belief against a supremacist ideology, whether it be in a state or otherwise? That is to say, does a Jewish homeland by itself not necessitate a supremacist nation state or country in which Jews are above all else? And forgive me, this
Fair
is,
question.
I mean, no disrespect whatsoever. I actually very much respect your work. I just thought I'd pick your mind on this because I didn't understand it. Thank you and continue your good work. Shout out to Jeff.
Thank you for your question. I will answer it this way. I think we had Eva Bartlett on a while back, and Eva corrected me. I kept talking about a two-state solution as I thought that was the most viable thing, and she said there can't be a two-state solution. And I respect her. She's a woman of great experience. And the more I've studied it, because I admitted at that time that I hadn't been a student of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I was late to the game, so to speak, and so there is a lot of evolving thought process going on. And today, I'm of mind that there can't be a two-state solution for exactly some of the reasons that you outlined. That it empowers Israel to be an exclusive Jewish-only supreme land. That's not the case. So I agree with you. I think right now that Israel has shown that it has behaved abysmally. I believe now in a one-state solution that can incorporate the notion of Jews living in their historical homeland, but not in a Jewish-only state. And it would have to be peacefully coexisting with other Palestinian citizens, Muslims, Christians, the people of Palestine who have as much of a religious right to live in these lands as the Jews do.
All right, let's take one more question, then let Scott go Betty by. This is from Democracy Brewing in California. I keep hearing that Israel has killed as many women and children in 2 months as Russia has killed in 21 months. Is that true? Has Russia killed 15,000 women and children in Ukraine?
I don't believe Russia has killed 15,000 women and children in Ukraine. So I think that that's a false narrative. Russia, there have been Ukrainians that have died. The United Nations has tracked these numbers, but Russia's been assiduous in their targeting. They don't commit the kind of flagrant violations of international law that Israel commits on a daily basis. If Russia does target a civilian target, I think it's by error as opposed to being a deliberate act. The Washington Post, Human Rights Watch, and others organizations have said straight up that Ukraine uses its own civilians as human shields, that they put military equipment around, occupied apartments, they put it around hospitals, they put it around protected areas. And in doing so, they are committing a war crime, because you're not allowed to use protected persons or protected facilities, for military purposes. So, what I'll do is I'll go back and research that number just to see where it came from, because it's a very specific number. But I have a feeling that that number might be the total number of civilian casualties in Ukraine, and that the vast majority of those will be men, not women and children. But I'll go and take a look at it myself.
All right. It's very unlikely we'll have another episode before the 19th. Consider it to be a surprise if it does happen. But the next scheduled episode is on January 19th at 12 o'clock noon. And you're going to be pretty busy in the next few days. You want to give people an idea of what's in store, or you want to wait for the recap on the 19th?
I think we have to wait for the recap on the 19th, because a lot of what's being planned is still up in the air, and I don't want to telegraph it.
Okay. And then do you want to say when you're coming back, or is that being too specific?
Well, I'll be back in Moscow. No, I've been very specific. I'll be back in Moscow on the 17th, late, and we'll be working on the 18th.